Today's video is acrylics. Hey, here I am and welcome back. Today I'm going to be continuing with my cheap art supply series. I've already done pencils and watermarkers, but today's video is acrylics. I got my cheap art supplies from Action. The acrylic set that I'm going to use is this one. It has no branding on it at all. There are 24 colors and a little mixing pot, but also I'm going to use these paint brushes that I also bought from Action. So let's give it a... This is plastic, as I expected. Comes in a 12mm or 0.4 fluid ounces. Oh, that will do. We'll just take a little blob off there. Vermilion. Oh, it seems much waterier. Maybe it's separated in the tube a little bit. Silver next to orange. Wild. You say silver, I say grey. Sap green. I really like this in the Winsor & Newton. I think I quite like it here too. Cobalt blue. Why is there two greens in between the blues? That's weird. You know, I think I'm going to like this. I do think the way that these colours were ordered is a bit strange. Just going to put that swatch sheet there for reference. Now, I don't know what's going on here. My mini canvas has this weird stain on it. But I'm going to paint over it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I've decided I'm going to attempt to paint a sunset from memory. So here I am just deciding which colours I want to use. Blues, pinks, oranges and yellows. I'm just using a dry brush to blend these colours together. And I've only just now realised that I'm not using the brush from the set that I bought from Action. So I thought it might be a good idea to dip my brush in water to help these blend together. But as you can see, that was a bad idea and it all turned out super muddy. So I'm taking some colours, the blue, the pink and the yellow, to try and fix this. I think maybe I should have waited for that first layer to dry, because when I went in with my brush, which was still a little bit wet, it just kind of smudged everything around. But in the end, I managed to get it to a place that I was happy with. So learning from that mistake, I took out my hairdryer and dried this layer before I carried on. And yes, I know I have no hair, so why do I have a hairdryer? But I used to have hair and now I use it for drying out paint. So now that I finally remembered to use my Action brushes, I'm trying to just work out how my composition is going to look. I tried picking up the paint with a wet brush because that's what I'm used to doing with watercolor, which I don't actually think is an acrylic technique, but it somewhat worked. As you can see, it's kind of lifting it there. So I've made a mark for the sun, the clouds, and the reflection that's going to be in the water later. In hindsight, I could have done that with white paint, and that might have been the right thing to do. So now I'm adding some blue down here to the area that's going to be the sea or the ocean. And I'm still using the wrong brush. I should be using that one that's on the right because that's the one that I bought from Action. I'm actually inventing this whole scene from my imagination. I don't have a reference image, so there might be some inconsistencies with regards to light and shadow and things like that. I'm now just adding a touch of pink down here into the water as well to act as a reflection from the sky. And finally, I've realized I'm using the wrong brush and I'm taking out my Action brush. And I'm just using that to buff everything out and blend everything together. It felt like the right thing to do. At this point, I already think that looks like waves down at the bottom. Taking some blue straight out of the tube to draw in some waves. Trying to create the shadows, getting smaller as I go towards the horizon. Oh look, finally decided to use the mixing pot. Just really deepening those shadows to add a bit of depth. Oh look, I'm using the wrong brush again. Groundbreaking. Taking a bit of that lovely sap green, and I'm going to use that to add a bit of variety to these waves, just adding it in underneath the blue. I think that worked well. I like that. Taking a break from the waves, I took some purple to add some definition and shadows to the clouds. I'm not really sure how successful this was. I'm not sure if it was the right color. Desperately trying to fix it by blending it out, buffing it out with this wide dry brush. So I tried a different technique, going round in circles to make it look like a fluffy cloud, and I do think this worked better. I decided to add some variation to the clouds as I was getting closer to the horizon, making them smaller, and I changed the color to pink, and then added purple again. Wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I thought they would look more like shadows the further away that they got. I think if I had a reference photo, I would have definitely done the clouds in a different way. Just taking some white to tidy up this circle that's going to be my sun. Bringing it down to be the reflection in the water. And then taking the wrong brush again to just buff that out. Just picking out some highlights on the peaks of the waves that I think would probably catch the sun. I think this worked quite well. I think it really helped it to look watery and wet. Good boy, Nathan. You're using the right brush now. I felt like I was overworking the waves and they were starting to look a little bit cartoonish. So I went back to the clouds again. I thought it would be a good idea to put white underneath the clouds to pick out the highlights from the sun. But I wonder if perhaps it would have been better if I'd just left the clouds really kind of dark and moody. I think it might have made the whole piece look more mysterious. Now I'm using a variety of brushes to try and get the right impression that I want. I've used the big fat wide brush, I've used a flat ended brush, a round ended brush, going in now with this tiny little brush. I just kept working until I was happy with it and then dried it all out again. Now that that's all dry, I decided to add something in the foreground. So I'm just going in with the black and I'm carving out the shape of a palm tree. This is going to appear completely silhouetted, so I'm only using black now. Just adding some little tufts of what could be grass or foliage down there. Just going in now and adding each branch. Is it a branch on a palm tree or is it a palm? Each palm, I guess. I didn't know how many to do, but I thought 9 would be a good number. Odd numbers look more pleasing than even numbers if something is going to be in a circular shape. So always use 5, 7, 9, looks better. Flicking to add the leaves onto each palm, looks quite fluffy. And then because this palm tree is so dark in contrast to the rest of the picture, I couldn't resist but go back into the clouds and try and add some more definition. And I just kept working on them. I added some pink. I thought that would make it look more moody. So I had to go back in and touch up the trunk of the palm tree again, which was quite difficult because this brush had some stray strands. So I had to keep making it wider and wider to keep it sharp. And then I just added 2 little birds flying over the ocean. Couldn't resist going back in with this cloud again, could I? Leave it alone! Drying it out. and that's it done. That took me much longer than a normal session, but I did enjoy it. I felt much more like a painter than a sketcher, which felt quite nice. So here is my final product. I really like it. I had no reference, so that was an issue. I mean, I haven't done anything major that I haven't seen before. I mean, I've seen clouds and I've seen the ocean and I've seen palm trees before. It's nothing groundbreaking. But what I do really like is, I like my waves down here. I think with practice, I could make that look even more ocean-like. I think the clouds maybe need a bit of work. Maybe they need to be a bit darker on top. I'm not sure. There's something, for me, there's just something off about the clouds. But the palm tree was actually really easy. I quite like my little birds. But all in all, a rather good experience. In fact, I've just realized I've used all of my products that I've bought from Action, apart from the dotting tool. So, in conclusion, for the whole series, I have enjoyed using every single one of them. I think I've created something decent using each supply, and I was worried that maybe I wouldn't like them and that the quality would put me off, but it really hasn't. So instead of putting me off,
actually, it's put me on.
They've all been fun, they've all been enjoyable, and I've managed to create something that I like with all of them. So what I'm trying to say is, you can create nice things with cheap products. You don't have to spend the big bucks. Please remember to subscribe and like and comment. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.